There was no kind of sweeping stuff under the rug. It was like, this is what life is. And if you ask the question, you got an honest answer.
Well, that's really good.
And I really like that.
I was looking at this study, and it says that 95% of your life is programmed by the time you are 7 years old.
Whatever your beliefs are, if you think that you're going into another realm or where your state of consciousness is, I think that me and Charlie have the same divine sense of consciousness at one.
Hey people, welcome back to Triangle Theory. Today we're going to explore the topic nurture versus nature. Are we born this way or we are molded through life's experiences? In this episode we will touch on the difference between nature and nurture, how genetic predispositions influences our lives, how our environment shapes our personality traits, in what way your experiences shape you.
I think, like, were we given traits? How does it play a role kind of fundamentally in you as a person? It's a really interesting topic that I found kind of researching more into. And I think when you look at distinct individuals on this planet, are we born with our characteristics, or do we find out through kind of as life progresses?
Yeah,
it's amazing. It's an amazing subject. What did you kind of come to?
Yeah, so it's funny because when I chose that topic, when you chose that topic, because you was the one who chose it, I was reading a book called The Science of Fate, and it was talking about the nature and nurture and how these two comes to the same philosophical question. And actually it's interesting because this topic is one of the oldest debates within the psychology field. The phrase nature versus nurture was first coined in the mid-800s.
That's crazy.
By the English Victorian polymath Francis Galton in discussion about the influence of heredity and environment on social advancement. So first off, I think it's very important to distinguish those two. What is nature and what is nurture? So nature is what you're born with, the genetics, all various diseases that you inherited from your family, from your grandparents. And the nature is essentially your life experiences and how it shapes you, different personal life experiences, and how essentially it shapes you.
When you think about kind of nature versus nurture, and you think about characteristics that you've adopted from your parents, well, like from your mum, what is it that you feel you've completely adopted from your mum?
Oh, that's a really nice one.
That you know that you have.
Yeah.
That's 100% I've inherited that trait.
I think kindness.
Okay.
My mom is a very, very kind person, and I think I am a kind person, but probably while growing up, I kind of forgot about it a bit. And now that I feel like I'm in a very good environment, my friends are very kind, and now it kind of even pushes that even more, because I'm not really afraid of being kind anymore, whereas back in Lithuania kindness was compared to, you can't be kind because you're weak in a way. Not for women, for men mostly. So kindness is definitely inherited from mom, because she's the best.
Anything else like that you could kind of pinpoint it, maybe similar to your sister as well?
Nothing that comes to my mind. No, nothing
Okay.
that comes. What about yourself? That's a really good question.
Oh man, it's like so many things. Probably like stress, worry, probably inherit, like maybe with my...
Well, sorry, now that you said, definitely stress and worry, because every little thing that happens in my mom's life, she's stressing a lot. And I used to, but I'm a lot better, so I think personal experiences and nurture helped me to cultivate a more calm approach to stressful situations.
Like I feel when I look at traits and characteristics and stuff from my parents, I feel that that for sure. I think there's also maybe this level of openness and understanding and awareness that I got from my parents, for sure. Like when I think about my upbringing, the environment, my upbringing was kind of a lot like, there weren't really, it was kind of almost quite hippie. It wasn't
I remember you mentioned that. I was really surprised.
Yeah, there wasn't really much kind of authority in a way.
Yeah.
There wasn't a lot of structure. It's quite chaotic. And when I think about that environment, I think that kind of allowed me to I felt there was no kind of sweeping stuff under the rug. It was like, this is what life is. And
Yeah.
if you ask the question, you got an honest answer.
Well, that's
And
really good.
And I really like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I also feel that I inherited traits like quite stressed, quite stressful, quite overthinky. When I think about kindness and love, I think I inherited those kinds of. It was still like a loving household. So yeah, I when I think about that, when I feel about environment, we also have an influence on ourselves, I think, when we grow up as well. But I also feel that when I look, and it was really interesting because I went to this exhibition, and it's the Diva exhibition in the V&A, and it's been going for quite a while, and it's an exhibition about extremely influential women and fashion. And you've got like Rihanna's dresses in there from Met Gala, and you've got like Madonna's dresses and Billie Eilish's clothes and all these, and kind of what they stood for and what it meant. And in the beginning of that exhibition is a relative of mine called Ellen Terry. And Ellen Terry, if for people that don't know, is a very famous Shakespearean actress of that time, and I'm a direct relative of
Oh, really?
yeah, man. And there was like her dress was in this box, and there was this whole piece about her and what she did. And
Sorry for cutting you, but what sort of
hey guys, thank you so much for making it this far into the podcast. If you have any feedback, then please let us know, as we always want to make this podcast better. So hearing from you is always a pleasure. Please subscribe to all of our platforms, get involved at Triangle Theory. If you've got any comments, or if you want to share any topics that you think that me and Conrad would like to talk about, then please get involved. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much.
how far is she? Like, what sort of
Oh, this is like 1800s, so like Victorian.
Oh, okay.
Like very, like extremely old. I think she's like my great grandmother.
Ah.
And this is on my mum's side, so
Mm-hmm.
my grandmother being Craig. And there was this kind of piece that about like reading about her, and it kind of talks about the influence that she had on the industry and influence that she had on like the revolution of kind of women, and it also talks about her like kind of how she was in business and kind of what she was a risk taker.
Mm-hmm.
And I was feeling like maybe I inherited a bit of that. At least I just kind of wanted.
No,
I wanted to think.
Yeah, you're definitely a bit posh.
At that time, she was generating like she generated a significant amount of money and wealth for her at that time.
Yeah.
And that was because she was ferocious in her field and, you know, put herself out there and took a risk and went against the odds at a time where women didn't have.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
And where they were kind of shut down. And she was very kind of creative and elaborate, and, you know, being an actress at that time must have been mental, especially like one of her kind of stature. And I felt that maybe those were, I'd like to hope, some characteristics that maybe I inherited, maybe why I think about things and do things differently, maybe, you know. And that was a really interesting thing to think about, because I think genetics and I think the way in which they express themselves, or at least from what I understand, is they're very specific. And I feel the more specific genes are, the more kind of open-minded you have to be when understanding genes, or at least I was in this research.
It's so crazy that some of our relatives, you can inherit some characteristics from 500 years ago. That this, as an example, the lady that you mentioned just now, 200 years ago, and well, it's not guaranteed that you inherited, but she was probably very entrepreneurial, and you are as well, and probably that's why you essentially just picked that route to,
for sure. I mean,
to become one.
And like
it's
even
really,
when I
really
think
interesting.
about my granddad and on my dad's side and my great grandfather that were also trying to make their mark and trying to have their
yeah,
on it. And that always had an influence on me. But I also remember my granddad also saying to me as a kid that you come from a lineage of hardworking individuals, and that always had an impact on me.
yeah, as well. Like saying that to a little kid,
Yeah,
right? It definitely creates some sort
create
of
this kind of environmental aspect of things as well.
yes,
Where it kind of influenced me as well, and he was very proud.
yeah, yeah.
So it was kind of an interesting thing to see on the nature versus nurture topic.
When you're 29 right now.
Yeah.
When you look back on your life, do you think at this very moment, what influenced you more, nature or nurture? And if you can give any examples.
There are definitely, I think when you're young, all it is your characteristics of who you are. So that's very nature. And there's parts of nurture that maybe influenced you at that time that you might not necessarily have recognized, but now you start to recognize.
Yeah.
So it's a hard one. It's a hard one to say which one had a bit more of a profound effect to me right now. But I would say recently it's been all of my own self nurture, as you would say it.
You developed that through
developed
self-development.
Yeah,
life
exactly.
Experiences, yeah.
What about you?
Good question. Good question. It's my question. that's arrogant.
It's a good question.
Yeah. Yeah. So probably, as you said as well, a lot of it now I can feel that a lot of it is just a nature of myself, because I'm becoming true to myself, and again, life experiences influenced who I am. So, okay, so when I moved to the UK, the person that was in Lithuania and I am right now are two completely different people.
Yeah.
And I was only developed that person through experiences like doing jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai, reading different books, doing this podcast, and getting to know people from other walks of life. Traveling, it was a big one. But it's interesting because only through those life experiences I kind of managed to find my true self, which is the nature. So I feel they very you can't distinguish those two, because you need one to find the other.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
I think that your genes are amplified in the environment that you're in.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, absolutely.
They, and it allows you to bring those out.
Yeah.
Regardless of what your environment is, your genes will, kind of amplify that.
Yeah. And again, I think we distinguished nature and nurture as well, but we can delve a bit deeper. I did delve a bit deeper into those factors, and genetic factors is physical characteristics, so hair color, eye color, your height. You can't really change that too much. Health and disease risks, so from different genetics you have bigger risk to get into to get ill. Yeah, to get ill essentially. Cognitive abilities, well, you can born smart, you can born not so smart as well, and personality traits as well, such as extroversion, neuroticism. Do you think you're extrovert or introvert? You're introvert, right?
I would say introverted, yeah. For sure.
Do you think you can become from introvert can you become extrovert?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think that I can turn on being extroverted when I want to be, but I would say more or less on the whole, I would say that I'm probably quite an introverted person. When I am extroverted, it kind of exhausts me, so then it kind of allows me to want to be a bit more introverted.
Yeah.
But I know that kind of when I'm in a social situation, I won't just like hide away and not be social. Like I'll put that extroverted person on, but I'm not a person that will actively go and seek to be this.
Yeah.
Like, you know, for you, you're also quite an introverted person as well.
No, I'm
Would,
I'm introvert, but
yeah.
I don't mind. I guess I did this Myers-Briggs personality test, and it says that I'm 52 extrovert and 52 introvert and 48 extrovert. So it's very balanced.
It's kind of
It's-
half and half.
yeah, almost half and half.
Yeah.
Um, and as well, I think it's very interesting because you have a twin brother,
Mm.
and touching on that is I was doing the research on this topic,
Yeah.
and then I thought that obviously I knew that I'm going to do a podcast with you, and I thought about Charlie, and in my head I said, oh, this is going to be really interesting because I think when it comes to twins, it's very different. Yeah, it's very different from majority of people
Because you
what they
have-
experience.
Yeah, like so from a twin point of view,
Yeah.
you have identical twins, which is what me and Charlie are. So we share 100%
So,
of our
yeah.
genetic code.
Oh, okay.
And then you've got non-identical that would share about 50%. So
Identical.
like I can't remember the exact kind of terminology for the word, but it's like a mono, which is what me and Charlie are. It's like a monogaiotic twins. So it's like one egg, one sperm,
Mm-hmm.
which is what we are, that split into two instead of two eggs, two sperms. So that's where you get non-identical, where you can get a girl and a boy,
Okay.
or you can have
Two boys.
or two girls that are two separate eggs that got fertilized. But me and Charlie
Yeah.
have one egg, one sperm that split into two.
Yeah, go on. Yeah. Yeah.
So we share 100% of our genetic code. But what's interesting in the study of finding out of nature versus nurture, so where you've got people that have characteristics of alcoholism, they wanted to know if that's actually something that you inherit from your genes, or is that
Mm-hmm.
due to your environment because you had a shitty upbringing, right? Or whatever led you to alcoholism. So they took identical twins, or you have identical twins that are separated from birth, that have same genes but are raised differently or reared differently, right? And then they looked at those two identical twins and saw what similarities they had. And from my research, some of them were so specific. Like they found, two of these twins in one study would both, even though they didn't know each other and were sort of reared separately, they both used to send love letters to their wife and hide them in the
Really?
house. So, and I think that when you look at genes, or when you look at genes so specifically like that, you can see that maybe these are like, they're just expressing their ways in very different ways.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of goes to show how eerily close or kind of almost how weird genes can be.
Yeah.
How specific they can express themselves regardless of the environment that they're in. And it suggests that there is a strong genetic influence within us that's from, way back when, that might not necessarily be environmental. And I think that was the most interesting thing that that study allowed to happen. But in my view, I don't necessarily think that it could examine how influential genes are environmental is. I still think there is this big debate, regardless of twins. I think what that kind of showed from my point of view is that, yes, we do have a great influence from our genes, and it can be so specific, but there's also such a great impact that our environment has as well.
Exactly. So again, I prepared some questions because I'm fascinated about you and Charlie and how you think, and it's very interesting because I remember when we met in a coffee shop and we talked, and then we decided to do the podcast. I was looking at you, and that was probably the first time when we we have a proper chat. And I remember I was looking at you, and in my head, I was thinking, you're not even. It's not even that you're looking the same with Charlie.
Sound the same,
and your manners as well. The hand raises and the expressions of face. I was looking at you, I was like, oh my days, you are so similar with him. And so as you're getting older, obviously you have different friends and different life experience. I know you're running a business together, but so automatically spend a lot more time together. But how do you see that?
How do I see the differences?
How do you see the differences, and what distinguishes as you're getting older?
It's it's what's the difference that I can distinguish between us two now?
Yeah, that's it.
I would say that, I mean, Charlie's a bit more maybe mature than I am in some ways. It's really interesting because there
Mature.
are some things that we disagree on, and there are some, because if I also think about mine and Charlie's upbringing, we've had the exact same environment, right, all the way through. We've done the same things. We've worked
Yeah.
together. We've lived together. You know, you would think that we couldn't be any more similar than what we are, but there are differences in the way in which we think, for sure. Like, we argue a hell of a lot and stuff, but there are certain, I would say, maybe values and interests and things that we have that are different. Our goals are different, which is also really healthy.
Really?
Yeah.
Your goals are
Like,
different.
we both have similar goals, but I would say that we have different hobbies and interests. We have different, I'd say, yeah, at the end of it, we probably have different goals. I think Charlie wants maybe, it's hard because I don't want to speak for him, but I'd say, knowing him, that he probably wants maybe somewhat of a bit more of a simpler life, maybe not, and like it's driven in different ways than I am.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, Charlie can put his foot on the brake a bit more, whereas I'm like tunnel vision, will work till, you know, an ungodly hour, whereas Charlie will like, no, I'm gonna do this. I've got my boundaries. I want to focus and succeed in this. I want a balanced life.
I know you openly talked about OCD. Does Charlie has one?
No, not at all. No.
Do you think
Charlie's
that?
like an avid nail biter, and I'm not really.
Yeah. He said it, but he said he's a lot better with it now.
Not better with it now, yeah. But maybe for an environmental reason he had that.
Well, Lily he said that Lily bought him like a set for
nails and stuff.
Yeah, so he's
yeah, it's
doing
weird.
that.
I would say that I've got inherently more problems with that, which is really interesting because you would think same upbringing, same. So maybe there's something in our genetic code that's different. That's maybe, I don't know, because I don't know anyone in my family that might have that. Yeah, it's weird. I think maybe Charlie's a bit more creative in his thinking, whereas I'm a bit more logical.
Yeah. I can see that, you know. Yeah. I can see that. Yeah, Charlie's definitely more creative.
Yeah, it's weird. We think differently, but we complement each other in ways like that. But we're also so similar.
Yeah, definitely. I remember that day when I saw you two for the first time in one spot at your house during COVID. I was like, it was just, my mind just blew, man.
When we work together on like DOSMAS and stuff, and people see us chefing, they're like,
Yeah. It's so trippy.
It's so
Man.
crazy. It's so trippy, and but it's obviously a real pleasure because it's also like kind of seeing myself back at me.
Mm-hmm.
But twins is funny because you have this intuitive kind of feedback with each other. You kind of know what the other person's thinking in a way.
You know them people say that. Well, I've heard stories that that if one of the twins feels down, the other twin can feel it, or like if one of the twins dies or something, the other twin can feel it. Have you ever had similar experiences?
Yeah. So even. Okay.
Wait, and I'm gonna touch on that, but mate, I'm so fascinated about it because I remember Charlie told me that you had the same dream.
Yeah, we have had the same dreams many times. Yeah, like maybe like.
Yeah, talk through that, man.
So it always tends to be if we're in the same room, or if we're sort of in the same household. But the first time it really vividly happened was maybe when we were like 19, 20. And we were at my mum's house, and I woke up and I was like, I had the most weirdest dream, and it was so specific. And Charlie came downstairs and he was like, I had a weird dream, and we both rattled off the same dream exactly picture for picture of what
crazy.
it was, times, how it happened, this person was in it, that, yeah, and then all of this sort of stuff, and we were like, fuck, that's weird. Fuck,
This
that's
is
so damn
really weird, man.
But being a twin is like intuitively understanding the person and how they feel. And I don't necessarily know that's because I've spent a lot of time with him and we've influenced each other in the way that we thought. Maybe there's an environmental aspect to us, just that's just how we would think. But with being a twin, it feels more intuitive. Like even on Monday last week, I was not feeling great. I was feeling a bit down.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, I really want to speak to Charlie right and call him. And he was like, I feel the exact same way.
Wow.
So it's just stuff like that. There was one incident when, and I remember it because my stomach kind of felt like it kind of hit, like it kind of dropped. And I must have been 16. I was like 16. And I think I was out with some friends or something. And I was like, oh, I really need to call Charlie because Charlie's at work. And I couldn't get hold of him. And I was like, fuck no, something's wrong. I don't feel right. This feels really weird. And like maybe for like an hour, I was trying to get through to him throughout the day. My friends were like, he's fine, he's at work, because he was like chefing at the time. And I got through to him. I was like, hey man, is everything okay? And he was like, no, everything's not okay. And I was like, fuck, what's happened? And there was like a fire in his kitchen, or like, yeah, there was like a whole ambulance and thing got called.
Oh, wow.
And all this stuff. And I was like, that's so weird, because I had this feeling. And I don't know, maybe if people that have had that maybe not necessarily be a twin, but I do think that there's this kind of connectedness.
Yeah.
I just knew something was up. I knew something that, I don't know, it feels more in tune. But we're very in tune with each other. Like we always check in. We know how the other.
Yeah. Well, yeah, he tells me a lot when we in jiu-jitsu, and I remember when he told me that you had same dreams.
It's nuts, isn't it?
I was just.
It's
yeah,
crazy.
It's great, really.
Because like even earlier today we were talking. We think things the same. Like we view things the same. We view life the same.
Yeah.
We view it in the same kind of way. And we even surprise ourselves. We're like, fuck, we're similar. I reckon we think about things that we don't even think the other person is thinking, but we are thinking that in a way. Weird.
Yeah, man.
So strange. And again, I don't know if that's genetic, because I think in my family as well, I think we're the first set of twins as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a bizarre but privileged position to be in. It's so weird. I can't think of my life not being, obviously I don't know anything else but being a twin, but it's always kind of like having this other
half.
This other half.
Yeah, it's crazy,
like
man.
I even fundamentally think that kind of after, if you think about your soul and where you go after you die, right? Whatever your beliefs are, if you think that you're going into another realm or where your state of consciousness is, I think that me and Charlie have the same divine sense of consciousness at one, but we were just kind of split into two vessels.
Yeah.
So I think about
I see what you
both
mean,
me and
man.
Charlie, that would just goes back into
Yeah,
one
yeah,
inherent state of consciousness. That's how I think it is. It's bizarre.
Yeah, man. I see what I mean.
You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
definitely.
Because I really wanted to do this study because there was this study in London Imperial College where they secrete you on DMT and stuff.
For like an hour, innit?
Like an hour. And I wrote an email being like, put me and Charlie under it together and see if we have the same trips, everything.
Experiences,
everything.
yeah.
Because I really would like to dive deeper into that.
Did he accept you or not?
I didn't hear back. And there was also like other kind of psilocybin ones where you kind of take a certain amount of mushroom a day, or like a specific amount of...
Have you tripped together?
No, not properly, but I would like to do it properly.
Yeah, you definitely have to.
Whether it's like a ayahuasca thing or a DMT thing or a psilocybin
yeah.
thing, or even taking mushrooms together to see if we could have any kind of influence
on
each other's
that must be fascinating.
state of consciousness in a different kind of realm of understanding. Like you're really interested in that.
Yes.
So yeah, it'd be really, really fascinating. And also I think me and Charlie would be good candidates for it because we're of similar age, we know and understand ourselves a bit. But it would just be wild to be able to kind of go into a trip or some kind of state of consciousness.
No, we'll have to arrange it, man.
I think so. I think it's there. But
summer is coming. We'll
coming.
definitely go something.
But I also think doing things like hallucinogenics has a huge impact on you. And when you think about nature versus nurture and all the rest of it, and how it impacts your
that's a
spirituality.
life experience, right?
Yeah.
I have noted that, including just successes, failures, traumas, and significant life events. And I think psychedelic experience is one of those. Hey guys, your feedback is very important. And no, this is not an advertisement. Actually, what I'm asking from you is to leave a comment below what you liked, and most importantly, what you disliked about this episode, because we can improve on the next episodes and we can make a better content for you to listen. Give us also a topics you'd like to us talking about, and we can prepare, do your research, and talk about it on the next episodes. Thank you. Significant life experiences, that because you can't really see that anywhere else, really is one of a kind experience.
Like when you think about what is the purpose of all of this and why in which we're here, and people are like, oh, you're supposed to keep experiencing this thing that we're in right now in order to create or order to find a sense of enlightenment, and then once you find enlightenment, you no longer need to keep being in this realm.
Yeah.
And people, I think there's sometimes fear in that, because then you're like, oh, I don't want to keep living this life. But then it's like, if you're already enjoying it right now, then why is there a problem?
Yeah.
And it's funny because when I think about experiences like psychedelic ones that give you a sense of enlightenment, and I find a lot of enlightenment when I have conversations with Charlie about ourselves and who we are and fundamentally what makes up a twin, and, you know, do we have one consciousness that's split into two? I find a lot of clarity in that, and I find a lot of enlightenment in that, because I've got cool thing about being a twin is I've got a direct line to who I am as a person. It's like a direct reflection. It's weird.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
You don't. I think that's a very privileged position to be.
Absolutely, man. It's definitely not many people can experience that.
And you can like fuck with people as well. You know. Like,
yes.
Like, you know, we have the same gym membership before, you know, where we've just
really
we've just, you know, been one person, like, save money on that.
Yeah, why not?
You know, I think we even almost like put one car insurance name under one.
Really?
Yeah, almost. Yeah. Then my mum found out and was like, no, fuck that, that's so dangerous.
Is it? How they can know that?
Well, I mean, that's the thing. I was like, why don't we just leave 2 driving licenses in the car, and then whoever get. You know, if I was driving and I wasn't insured on the vehicle, and then I was like, yeah, no, sorry, I'm actually Charlie, and they're like, no one would know. We've also done it before where we've gone, we've swapped passports before we go through border check just to see if it will work.
Yeah, it definitely worked. Yeah,
bro. Even on his Face ID, I can unlock his phone. I can do everything because I've got his face, bro.
This is crazy, man.
It's
I'm so fascinated about it.
Yeah, it's a lot of benefits to being a twin.
It's really. I remember when you came to jiu-jitsu with him for the first time, everyone was like, "What?"
It's mad, isn't it? No, it's really fun, and I think there's more fun to be had with it. To be honest, like, we don't actually use it to our benefit as much as we should.
We'll have to invite Charlie to the podcast one day.
We will. Yeah, we've just spoken enough about him. But no, I think it's really interesting when it kind of looks at the debate of nature versus nurture, because I think when you look at, especially in kind of comparing the similarities and differences between us, I think what I've learned is that I think you have a profound effect on you with your environment and the environment that you put yourself in. But I think there is this genetic code that you do have, and I think your genes express themselves on the basis of the environment that you're in.
Yeah. Well, as I was doing this research as well, I noticed that it's interesting because you kind of thinking that genetics, you want to think that it's 50-50, right? But then I was looking at this study, and it says that 95% of your life is programmed by the time you are 7 years old. So essentially everything else after that is just basically a program that runs, that you absorbed until you were 7. And there's the saying, I remember I've heard it. It says, "Give me a baby and I'll bring you a man after 7 years," which is It's fascinating because you don't even realize how much of your life is just simply because of the past experiences when you were 4 or 3, and you have no idea what happened and when you were at that age. I remember, I can remember when I was 7, but and 6 and 5, I guess, certain experiences, but definitely not day-to-day life how it was when I was 7, because it was completely different. I was seeing things, and um yeah, I remember my imagination was so vivid. every it's weird. I had this experience when I was a kid. I remember every time I used to wake up, well, my mom was she went to work, and I used to wait for my babysitter. And every time I wake up, I see this creature, a man. I don't know. He's not. It wasn't definitely. It definitely wasn't a man. It was just some sort of a creature that used to walk from like like a corridor all the way to my room. And by the time he's next to the doors where I'm staying, my babysitter always used to knock on the doors and open it. And literally, I can remember every single morning I used to wake up, and then this creature starts walking towards my room, and then
Nice.
and then my babysitter comes in and he just vanishes. It's crazy, man. I remember at one point he was so close, and every time I used to get so scared
Yeah.
because he's so close to me, and then so close to my room, and then my babysitter always just knocks on the doors, and she
Do you
comes
think
in.
that had like a profound effect on you, like today, if you think about that experience?
Not that's the thing. I don't know, because it's programmed in deep and into my subconscious. I remember the memory. I remember how it made me feel,
Hmm.
but I don't remember But I don't know what what kind of effects, in what sort of effect it manifests into day to day life right now. So, yeah. But that what I'm trying to explain is that all of these different experiences mean so much, and we have no idea that we're running based on these
You will
events.
have some kind of significant value to you.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's bizarre when you think about values, beliefs, norms that shape your identity and your worldview, and the way in which they have an effect on how you view the world.
Yeah.
Like you might have like an argument with your dad at 7,
Mm.
and all of a sudden that completely change the way you have an experience or
Yeah.
view something. Or so it's an incredibly interesting topic. And when I think about when I cast my memory back to certain situations that had a profound effect on me, there's always these key moments in life where I'm like, maybe I learned something, or maybe I took something away from that. Especially like when you think about therapy, when you go back and do like a bit of self work, you're like, oh shit, that had way more of an effect on me than I thought it did.
Mm-hmm.
And that's snowballed into why I made that
Yeah.
decision, and
Yeah.
why I react in certain ways. And it's kind of learning and seeing what you know about yourself. And I'm sure there are so many ways in which you would be able to break that open. But it's funny because when me and Charlie were kids or babies in a crib in like a cot,
Mm-hmm.
Charlie always used to whack his head against the cot, like always.
On purpose.
No, I don't know. Like apparently he just used to like hit his back of the head like on the crib, and then I would start doing it. So
Oh,
my mum
really?
was like, yeah, like we both used to just hit our heads against the side of the baby cot.
Yeah.
And she had no idea why we did that, and to the point where she was like, yeah, sometimes I used to have to take you out because you would break the piece of wooden crib
with the heads.
with the heads. Yeah. And I don't know if that's because maybe we were in the womb, but then I think like maybe that has had an effect or killed a couple
Yeah.
of brain cells. I don't
Yeah.
know, but it's weird. Like it's weird how things like that influence you, or maybe have had on you, like deep in life. It's a crazy one to think about.
It's very fascinating, and I know down some experiences that can shape you in later life. So, for instance, consider a child who receives consistent love, care, compassion, most of the times these children grew up in kind people, and they are as well more secure in themselves. They
Yeah.
better in dealing with relationships. Conversely, a child who experiences neglect and or inconsistent caregiving may develop an insecure attachment and just become an insecure a bit. So it's really fascinating how just by other people showing you love and secureness, it manifests in you becoming the same person. Whereas if you imagine, if you as a kid you come into your mum and you asking like, mom, can you help me with this, and she says, nah, I don't have time for it, automatically that little experience can result that you can't find a girlfriend because you can't trust anyone, or like, you know what I mean? It's so deep rooted in your subconscious, and you have no idea what it has to do with you. And then another example is, for example, a child growing up in a supportive and stimulating environment where they are encouraged to explore, learn, and interact with others is more likely to develop traits such as curiosity, openness, and social skills. So that obviously helps with making friends in school and in university, because you just developing those social skills by your mum being by your mum caring enough about you. And alternatively, a child raised in a restrictive or hostile environment may exhibit traits associated with anxiety, fearfulness, or aggression due to limited opportunities for socialization. So, yeah, I remember when I realized that, and that was at the very beginning of my self-development journey, that 95% of everything we do is run by subconscious mind. It just blew my mind, because I thought whatever happens when we were kids, it happens. We have a new chapter, and we work from there. And this is partially true, but all of these experiences have a huge amount of influence on how we behave right now. And I truly believe that that's a good lesson to, when you have kids or when you meet kids. Say, for example, I have nephew and niece, 14 and 9. I try to always lead by an example in a way, and I'm trying to be kind and caring, and I always show the love for them, because I know very soon, they're going to be adults, and all of these little experiences from me showing love going to manifest in what sort of people they're going to become.
No, it's really interesting, because I feel that we can alter our environments to influence behavioral expression differently. So if you think about how your environment changes your genetic code in order to express it, not that it changes it, you just express it differently.
Yeah.
And I think that was a really interesting point that you made. And when I think about when we're tied to our genes and the way they interact with their environment, I think they produce unusual similarities in a way. And I think that if you think about it, I don't necessarily think it's by random chance. I think the rarer the occurrence of your gene, I think that's just shows how meaningful it kind of is within that line. If that makes sense. At least that's what I came to the conclusion of. So I think, yes, I think your environment will always change in the way in which it has an effect on you. But I do think there are the kind of the rarer the gene almost, the more significant it is in a way.
Could you elaborate on that a bit, please?
So like if you think about, if you look at genes that kind of set more in stone, I feel that then they work more in deterministic ways, when in fact we operate more probable in a way, if that makes sense. So it's kind of the way I kind of broke it down in my research was that genes that, or characteristics that you have, the more significant that they are to you, I found are more likely that they wouldn't be changed by your environment.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think that they express themselves differently depending on what your environment is.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I found it.
Yeah, I see what I mean. And yeah, that's. I guess I'm not that secure and safe talk about genetic, and because it's a very very deep topic, and we can make another episode talking just specifically about genetics, but it's very fascinating how. And do you think, back to your point, do you think that the um generational life experience, as for example, my grand it's an example, by the way. My granddad used to beat my dad used to beat me, and I'm gonna beat my kid. And do you think that these life experiences can be so ingrained into your genes that it became a genetic thing?
Potentially, but I also think that it's more a case that you are what you know. So if you think
Yeah.
about that's something that you learned and you feel like that's like it's your environment, I think when it comes down to that, I don't necessarily think.
Do you think you can change genes by generations?
Yeah, for sure. I think it will always constantly adapt and grow differently as time goes on.
AI.
If that makes sense. AI as well. Secret question.
Yeah.
Do you think you inherited the person that you are, or do you think you molded yourself into the person that you are today? When you think about who you are today, do you think you inherited that, or do you think you molded it?
It's definitely a bit of both. I think naturally I'm a kind person, I think. Because my mom is very kind, and I think I inherited that from her as well. And things like and self-development and entrepreneurial characteristics, I guess, I think I inherited more from my environment rather than my family, because no one really had any businesses in my family. Well, my mom used to do little things when she was younger, but nothing crazy. My dad was very entrepreneurial, but at the same time he was a bad person. So I think, but I always wanted to do something different. That's definitely something that haunted me in a way. I didn't want to go uni because I feel like everyone is doing that. I always wanted to do something completely different, and I always wanted to look different. And I remember there's an example in when I graduated, we had a celebration, and I knew everyone was gonna come with either black or blue suit, and I wanted to come with a completely different color. So I thought I'm gonna buy even a red one or a white one. So I couldn't find a red one, so I came with like a champagne color suit, and I looked a bit like an idiot now when I'm looking back. But I always wanted to like distinguish myself from everyone, and so that's definitely something that I think I inherited. That's something that I want to be different, and I want to do completely different things. But because I met friends who had businesses and yourself, I feel that part is something I molded. So yeah, it's a bit of both. But when you look at the bigger picture, is definitely is a bit of both. But at the same time, you can take parts from nature and nurture. That was a good question. Yeah.
Thank you.
If you could choose, oh, that was a good one. Why am I saying that's a good one for my own questions?
Because you love your own questions.
If you could choose one natural gift, talent, advantage to be born with, what would it be?
One natural gift to be born with.
Yeah.
Probably to be able to understand emotional intelligence and to have it.
You don't think you have emotional intelligence?
No, I think I have it. I'm just saying that's if I was going to choose, if I had the option to be like what I was going to choose,
Mm.
I don't know, I would choose that for sure. I'm not saying that I've got it as in like I've got it.
Do you think you can be born with it?
With emotional intelligence? Yeah, I do. I think some people are born with more emotional intelligence than others for sure. Because if you think about someone that's incredibly smart, that's just naturally gifted and knows how to break down an atom and code and all the rest of it,
But that's more like
they're just on the
intelligent.
spectrum. What's that?
That's more just
Intelligent.
Intelligent,
You might
but
find
not.
that sometimes they're not necessarily emotionally intelligent, but they're very intelligent.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel I'm a bit more emotionally intelligent, but not intelligent.
Mm.
So
I feel
be
like
born with
emotional
that.
intelligence is something you cultivate over the time. It's not like
Interesting.
I don't think that a baby can be emotional intelligent.
No, not a baby, but I think that as you learn and grow into the person that you become, because I think that you're born with emotional intelligence, I would disagree. I think that that's something that you inherit fundamentally as a bit more of having an understanding of emotions and reading it than others.
Yeah. Interesting.
We'll let the audience decide on what they think.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, a question, leave it in comments below. What would be the gift that you would like to be born with? And that's a wrap.
Thank you so much for watching this episode, and we'll see you in the next one. Nice one.